Well, hey there, Streakers. It's been a little while, and I have my co-host with me who has been absent a little bit.
Only a little bit, but I'm glad to be back.
That's because you've taken care of so many different things that we've had going on with the family.
Yes.
Weddings, babies, all kinds of graduations, and all of that has been going on. We're excited to talk with you today because we have an article that was sent to us from another streaker, from one of our streakers. Big shout out there to Danny. Thank you so much for sending the article through. And this is in the Wall Street Journal, which is hiding in a bar bathroom stall. Fans defy odds to preserve Wordle streaks.
That's the title of the article.
That is the title of the article. That's what we're going to be talking about today. So let's start streaking. What is streaking and why should you do it?
Streaking is how you set up personal winning streaks. Look at who you want to be and what you need to do to become that person. This is streaking.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Jamie.
And we are streakers. Through 30 years of marriage and 7 children, we have learned the power of consecutive consistency or streaking.
To start streaking is simple. You just follow these 3 laws. Make it laughably simple, keep a record, and join the streaking community.
Streaking is your hidden superpower. With it, you will consistently progress and grow in whatever area of life you want.
In this podcast, Jeff and I will share all the fun, exciting, serious, solemn, wonderful parts of family, spiritual, professional, and personal life, and how streaking powers it all.
So join us in the conversation, join the movement, and start streaking today. One of the things I thought we'd do, Jamie, is let's just read through this article. Should we read through the whole thing and then comment, or should we read and comment?
Let's try and read through the whole thing.
I doubt we'll be able to do it.
I know. So we'll read through and comment as we go.
We'll read and comment as we go along here through this. Let's get started. From Wordle to Wordle, and this is written, by the way, Sarah E. Needleman out of the Wall Street Journal. Do you have a date on that one? I didn't have a date.
No.
It's just recently. I think it was last week. From Wordle to Wordle, people go to heroic, not historic, but could be historic, heroic lengths so that they don't miss playing games that reset daily. It's emotionally damaging for me when I lose a streak. The plane's Wi-Fi wasn't working, which meant she wouldn't be able to use the final hours of her trip to maintain her longest streak yet of playing Wordle, and about a dozen other games like it that reset daily, typically at the stroke of midnight. I was devastated, recalls Bellino. I was devastated, recalls Bellino, a 28-year-old education coordinator who normally checks off a handwritten list of each game after completing it to avoid accidentally skipping any.
She should download the streaking app because she could get double, the endorphins.
Yeah, double endorphins.
She'd play the game and get their streak, and then she could mark it off on her streaks since she has a handwritten list.
Yes, exactly. To avoid skipping any, she had been playing the game for nearly a year, marking wins on her list with a smiley face and losses with a sad face. Her travel buddy, also an avid player, suffered the same fate and was just as heartbroken. We stared at each other in disbelief. We're looking at each other in disbelief, Bellino says. Since launching in 2021, the puzzle game Wordle, which calls for identifying a 5-letter word in 6 tries, has inspired varieties of spin-offs, including Bartle, Shakespeare, Nerdle, math, Gordle, hockey, Factal, trivia, Daedal, history, Swordle, Star Wars, and Loodle, bad words. These mostly free games available via web browsers or apps unleash a new challenge once a day, so players have just 24 hours to solve each one. Drew Patty, 46, a freelance editor in San Carlos, California, starts the first of 5 daily games he's committed to playing when he wakes up. He aims to get the rest done by 4 p.m. when an alarm he keeps on his phone goes off. I don't want to panic late at night, he says, of why he chose an afternoon deadline. Zordle, which is like Wordle, but with 2 mystery words, can be obnoxiously hard, he says, but reaching the end of each challenge is a must. It's just a consistency thing.
I just love it.
I was going to say, you have to comment on this one. You got to be right there.
It's so interesting because you're reading it a little bit like you're teasing these people. But it's interesting that I've felt all these same things for my streaks.
Oh, I know. And I know I'm reading it with a little bit of a light heart, but like you, I too have felt that each thing for the different streaks that I have. The reason I'm reading it with a light heart is the amount of energy that anyone will put into a streak, be it from Wordle to what we do as far as our walk-run streak, any of those things. I mean, we will go to great lengths to keep the streak alive.
You really do.
Which is the power of gamification. The power of the idea of keeping something alive as simple as, because I wouldn't say that this is a hard streak to play the Wordle game. I don't know if, I don't play Wordle, so I don't know. We actually have a streaker in the streaking app that posts his Wordle streak every day. And, but one of the things that I don't know is, does it count just to play the game, or do you have to win the game to keep the streak alive?
That's a good question.
Because those are two different things. A winning streak is different.
I think you just have to count to play the game, because the one woman would put a smiley face if she won or a frowny face if she lost.
So it's just that you played the game.
So it's just that you played the game, that you did the 6 tries, and then your streak is alive.
Right.
So it is a fascinating thing to look at. It has all the components of a streak. It's laughably simple. You just have to play the game. You don't have to win. You just have to play. There's a record kept of it. And they obviously have a community. The rest of the article is about different people and their communities that they have with the games.
Such dedication came...
You were at Drew Patty.
What's that?
Oh, yes. Okay,
I was right here. It's a consistency thing.
Yes, you're right.
Okay, continuing with the article. Such dedication came in handy, sorry, I was going to say, I don't know why I read it the way I did. Such dedication came in handy recently when a friend of Patty's, a fellow daily gamer, was on an overseas work trip and too busy to keep track of time. He texted her a reminder each morning, and as a result, she didn't miss a beat. I felt honored to be her streak buddy.
See, I love that.
Look at that, he says. You've been my streak buddy.
Look at this. This is great, too.
Years.
They aren't all Cal Ripken Jr. streaks.
2,632 consecutive games played. We highlight that in the streaking book.
But gamesters notch notable streaks. Patty's longest yet is 270 days tackling square word, a stretch that ended on a vacation to Hawaii. I was distracted by paradise, he says. We can help you with that.
Yeah, we can. Absolutely. Tally Fisher of San Francisco begins tackling the 3 daily games she's into around 12:01 a.m. It's emotionally damaging for me when I lose a streak. That was in the beginning of the article. Says the 48-year-old communications professional, which is what happened a few months ago after a 55-day stretch. I cried. It was just one of those days when everything was crazy.
It's so fascinating so one of the things that I thought about a lot as I read this article, and we'll finish the article, but is, like you said, the amount of effort that was put into this. So there's a couple things that have happened here. One, they've gamified it. They've turned it into a game. And that is a huge aspect of what we found with why a streak works. And then the second thing I thought is it so far of a leap to take all of these same feelings and put them towards things that are genuinely important to you in your life?
Yeah. Yeah.
Things that you really care about, and then do the same thing. Turn that into a game.
Yeah.
How long can I don't want to miss it. What lengths will I go to
get it happen?
To
make it done.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that you can have these things. I love when he's like, it's just about consistency. Yes, it is. It's just about consistency.
That's it. Fisher shares results with family members and friends who reciprocate. We talk about creating a community, the 3 laws of streaking.
Yes.
And how what is it you're doing with law number 3 in creating or joining a community? You're celebrating with them. Mm-hmm. Everyone wants to celebrate a streak for whatever it is. I mean, people love to that's one of the reasons why I love the community in the streaking app, the feed, as far as to celebrate with others as they post proof of their streaks that they do every day.
Yes.
Recently, her 15-year-old son joined the group, upping the ante. It's extra important that I get on there and show him what mom is made of, she says.
A little healthy competition there.
Some people play daily games as a team. Mm-hmm. Charlie Keith and his partner live in separate apartments in Bristol, England, yet they play 9 daily games every night together, with him sharing his screen over the app Discord so she can see them. It's completely collaborative effort, says Keith, a 22-year-old marketing professional. Were you going to say something?
Nope, keep going.
Over Christmas, the couple was even farther apart when one traveled to Thailand, the other to Spain. The roughly 7-hour time difference required being flexible. One night, he had no choice but to play the games with her from a bar's bathroom stall.
Hence the title of the article.
It was very crowded, Keith recalls. I needed a quiet and secluded space to hear her. Daily games are devilishly entertaining, confess devotees such as
Tisha
Roback. When a snowstorm knocked out power at her North Andover, Mass. Home this winter, the retired antique dealer had yet to play her favorite daily games, which included the culinary-inspired Foodle. She had little battery left on her smartphone and didn't know when the power would return. I couldn't fool around because of potential emergency, says Roebuck, 71, but she played them anyway. I just had to. The limited window for completing daily games is largely what makes them so alluring. According to psychologist Louise Packard of Santa Rosa, California, we all have our compulsions and rules, she says. Failing to keep up feels like an itch that hasn't been scratched. While on vacation in Greece a few years ago, Packard, 69, found herself thinking about whether she'd be able to finish Spelling Bee, a daily spelling game which, like Wordle, is owned by the New York Times, while touring historic ruins. Then I was laughing at myself because that's ridiculous, she says. Parenthetically, she finished the game. Tensions can flare up among players when one comes across as suspiciously successful. Ornithologist David LaPuma said his colleagues were skeptical after he correctly identified a bird on his first try while playing Birdie, a daily puzzle featuring photos of fowl. Worse, he had edited his results after sharing them in the group's Slack channel to remove a link. It was a hard bird, so I understood where they were coming from, says LaPuma, 48, of Cape May, New Jersey, but it was a legit win. It was at least...
Nope. It was a least greeby.
I think that's the kind of
bird.
It was. Yep. A least greeby. Oh, wow. LaPuma and colleagues also share outcomes from Wordle, another daily puzzle that has players guess 4-letter bird banding codes. The goal behind touting scores is to outdo one another. The gloves come off, LaPuma says, though he added that because Wordle is so hard, everyone posts peacock emojis as a show of respect whenever one of them manages to complete it.
So a few things interesting here. So they're actually, the Wordle game, they're learning amazing things about birds through this game. And it's interesting because it's just a little thing every day.
Yeah, it is.
And
one little thing.
One tiny little thing.
Day.
And then it's also fascinating to me that they enjoy posting about it, sharing their successes or failures with each other. All of these things.
In their community. Because they're all interested in birds or the bird codes or whatever it is. Yes. They all share it together.
So it has all... I guess the reason we wanted to talk about this is because this talks about it from daily games, which can have impact in the sense that it can continue to help you to learn and stretching your brain. But they're still just little games that you play each day.
Right.
But you can see in this the power that a streak has. And
right.
Some people may make fun of this or say, this is ridiculous. It's ridiculous that people would do these things.
Which is why I read it with a little bit of a light heart.
Right.
It's because it sounds laughably simple.
Yes.
Laughable.
And
I think that is why we named the first law, make it laughably simple. Because there is some lightheartedness to it. Mm-hmm. And there's the overcoming of the ego inside of everyone that we're battling against.
Yes. But yet it's so fun to look at the way. So I guess what they are experiencing is exactly what we've experienced as we've set streaks, is you change your mindset from, oh, there's this thing I have to do, to all kinds of creative ways to make sure you do it in that day.
Right. How can I get it done?
How can I get it done? And the fact that there is something about doing it every day that you're like, okay, that was great. Yeah. I feel good. Moving on. I can go on with my day because I've done it.
There really is endorphins that come when we were talking with... on the Leading Saints podcast, and we were talking with
Kurt,
thank you. Frank was only coming to my mind. I'm like, I know it's Kurt. as we were talking with Kurt, he was talking a little bit about the endorphins that come from completing a streak, and it does every single day. Now, it's not the high that sometimes we want when we complete something really big, but it's the everyday endorphin that's amazing.
And it's fun because this has shown how you can kind of turn something into a game and make it more fun in your life.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because it is a game, and they've turned how many days in a row you can do it into a game.
Into a game, yes. It's interesting, this very last comment. So this is a woman who likes testing her knowledge of geography with Wordle and figuring out 4-word puzzles in 9 tries with Quirtle. She says, a lot of stuff we do in our daily lives is drudgery. This is something I look forward to. You're using your brain instead of just doing the dishes. I love, though, that we can use these same principles that work with things that are important to us or things that have become drudgery a little bit and turn them into a game and get ourselves to be consistent.
What would you say? So this is a good question. What would you say if you didn't have a streak around it would be drudgery? Like you needed to do it, but it would be drudgery if you didn't have a streak. As you think about your streaks, as you ponder on that question, there's a couple of mine that come to mind. So one of mine is I review at least one vocabulary word daily. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't even know if I would do that if I didn't have a streak. I look at these games and I'm thinking, well, maybe Wordle might be a fun way to do a vocabulary word. However, with that being said, I've kept the vocabulary word streak alive for years now. And I would look at that as drudgery if I was like, oh, I have to do this.
Right. If
you know
you were
what I mean?
assigned
if I
at
was
school
assigned to it, yeah, you've got to
do a vocabulary word every day.
Every single day, then I would be like, yeah.
That was my first thought when you asked the question. I was like, probably my geography streak would become drudgery.
Yeah.
Or like Chance has looked at a math streak would be something.
So my review at least one vocabulary word daily, 2,636 days.
That you haven't missed.
I have not missed. Every single day, I have reviewed at least one vocabulary word.
And I loved that the guy that talked about how he starts his morning by playing certain games, and then he has a goal to finish it by 4:00 because he doesn't want to be stressed at night. Wow, that's almost 7.5 years. That's amazing. For a vocabulary word. That means you must have started that one very early.
Yeah, I did. It was one of my earliest streaks that I started. I didn't
realize that.
It was in response to, I wanted, and I still am aiming at, I'm a writer, and I want to continue to write, and vocabulary was something that was important to me, so that when I come across a concept that I wanted to explain, that I could have vocabulary to be able to explain that concept. And so it started back when we were writing the book.
That's really good.
Even though, because it seems like, well, the book hasn't been published for almost 7 years. It hasn't, because you start a lot before you actually publish the book.
Yes. So the gentleman that says that he starts his streak, he plays his games first thing in the morning and then has a timer so that he's done by 4:00. I have a group of streaks that are my morning streaks that I like having them be done in the morning. Like that's how I start my morning is by doing these morning streaks.
Right.
And I think it's great because it's changed the way that I approach a morning. And it's turned it into that feeling of like, oh, look, I've already got these 4 things done this morning and I haven't even gotten out of bed yet.
Ancillary benefits of streaking is planning.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing that I see. And what he said and is so right on is that you plan your day differently because you want to get the streak done. That's how important it becomes to you. And
when your plan breaks down, so all of those people talked about when something happens that changed the circumstance. So the power went out, or I didn't have Wi-Fi, or I was in another country, all of these things, yet they were still thinking about, how am I going to get my streaks done? How am I going to keep my streak alive? That is the power of a streak. It really is. And when you can take that power and channel it towards all these good things, then you're thinking about those same good things when those circumstances change. You're like, okay, how am I going to I'm totally sick, but I have a push-up streak. How am I going to get it done? And it becomes a game.
You're thinking of a streaker right now.
I am thinking of a streaker that just had started that and told me, he's like, I have a push-up streak, and I know that he's sick with COVID. And he's been sick for several days. But he was super excited to say, my streak is still alive.
My streak is alive. My streak is alive.
Because there's power in it. And there's a lot of power in feeling like you've accomplished things even when you're really sick, or even when the circumstances have been against you, and the fact of changing it into a game. So instead of this thing that's hanging over your head, because what is the benefit of these? I mean, they didn't talk at all really about the things they've learned from the game. Hardly anyone talked about that. They just loved the excitement of keeping the game alive.
Yeah.
And that's what you've talked so much about with a streak, is you change this focus a little bit from, I have to floss my teeth, which is an interesting thing because you can't always see really great benefits from that. So it's hard to get yourself to do things that are uncomfortable, that have long-term benefits, especially when those long-term benefits are just stopping decay. It's not like your teeth look better and are whiter and your smile is brighter because you floss. You're literally just preventing decay.
Right.
And
so that would be a mundane thing.
That would be, in fact,
drudgery. That would be one of the drudgery things. Absolutely. It's still, because I have a streak, it makes it exciting, but it's drudgery to floss my teeth.
Exactly. And so you turn it into a game with yourself. How long can I keep this game alive? It's just about consistency.
What I look at, and one of the reasons I read this with a little bit more of a light heart, is because if I'm willing to do this with games, with things that maybe don't provide as much value in my life as other things, why not do this with other things?
Yeah.
Why not take and apply this same energy, which is what we discovered so many years ago, that we could apply the same energy to the areas of life that would add a lot more value. Not saying that I have to get rid of these streaks. I have streaks like this where I just enjoy, for example, reading a paragraph in a nonfiction book or a fiction book every day. I actually started that streak because I'm like, I need a little bit of variety in my life from my nonfiction reading.
Right.
And it adds value to my life. In the value scale, I would say it's lower value than something like reading at least one verse of scripture every day. For me, that's higher value. But all of those things make up the entire person, who I am as an individual and who I want to be.
Well, people that have a streak to laugh once a day. I think that it's the other thing that I was thinking about as you were reading it is that oftentimes with us, this was fun because my streaks are all set around things that are important to me, serious things kind of.
Yeah.
And this was a very lighthearted article about people who have felt so many of the same emotions that I felt around a streak, but around something very lighthearted and as a game. And I thought about it. I was like, is it okay to just be lighthearted about my streaks, to just enjoy the act of streaking a little bit? And I thought, yeah, it is. And I can do that because a lot of what my streaks are around are things that are important to me. But the act of streaking can be, I guess what I felt is they're finding joy in their streaks. Like they enjoy it. They enjoy keeping it alive. They enjoy the fun of it. They enjoy sharing it with their family and their friends. They enjoy having a streaking buddy. I'm like, we can experience all of those same feelings with our other streaks that are also important. Yeah,
that's really true. I think about, so this morning I was restless and couldn't sleep, and I was trying to figure out what to do because I was in this place where I was between, I call it I guess I'll call it the between. Let's call it that. What isn't that in what's the one show that you guys watch that's on Netflix called The Between? The show where they have the that town where they go, the girl that has the she's the experiment.
You are trying so hard.
I know, because I know you'll remember it as soon as I get there. You guys watched, it's 2 series worth of it. It's on Netflix. It's a huge amount. They have those creatures that bite your head off or whatever it is. It has the sheriff.
Oh, you're talking about Stranger Things.
Yes, thank you. Don't they call it the between?
Yes, it's the under. I don't remember.
Felt like
now.
I was on $25,000 pyramid there for a minute. I'm like, I know I'm getting this show right.
Stranger Things, and it has 4 seasons.
But don't they call it the between, or is it?
It's
something
not the
else?
between. It's something else, and now I can't think of what it is because we're recording this podcast.
The between, whatever it is.
But you're right. There's this idea that you're like between worlds.
Yeah, I can't
places.
sleep, but I
you're not
want to
awake.
sleep, and I know I need to sleep, but I really don't want to be doing anything. And so I'm sitting there going, what should I do? And I just I'm like, I'll just do my streaks. So I watched a master class, and then I'm like, okay, well, what's another streak? So then I did a plank, because that's another one of my streaks. Then I'm like, well, I may as well get dressed and go out. And I was up at an hour that no one should be awake.
Unless you're working some kind of graveyard shift.
Would you agree?
Yes. And an hour where you didn't want to be awake.
Right. I didn't. I mean, I wanted to be back in bed. And you came in and he says, well, why don't you come back to bed? I'm like, I'm just not there. And so I'm like, well, I may as well go outside, go on a walk. And it was a hour that no one was out, and it was raining. Mm-hmm. I thought, I'll just do it. And so I went out on my walk, which is another run. I was restless that I didn't want to run, but I also didn't want to walk.
Right.
I mean, I was in this place. And then I went from there to, I may as well pick up a piece of trash, because that's another streak.
So it's almost like there's these things that for you didn't want to do, but you're like, the game propels me.
Yeah.
I want to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of these things were propelling me along to today. I mean, where this is one of my streaks is to record at least one podcast daily. And so what happened and what I appreciated is that the game has helped me to keep going in my life with really important things to me. And I'm doing the floor of the success of each one of them. And I feel it really is interesting how I feel as I go through it. I have something to do.
That's what I was just thinking.
When
exactly.
I don't know what to do.
When you don't want to do anything, or you're feeling all the feels that come with a complete lack of motivation, you have basically a Rolodex of things that you can go through that you know you're going to do at some point today.
Yeah.
They're like, well, might as well just
do
them now.
Do it now.
And that is one of the things that
I did my push-ups. That was
love about streaking is it has changed the waiting place or the in-betweens. Like you've said, it's changed what I do with that time.
Yeah.
That's
so true. And that's, okay, we've been doing this for a long time. And this is the first time I've thought about that particular thought, where in the in-between, when I don't know what to do, I can turn to my streaks.
And you have a list of things that you're like, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. And it's all very simple things.
That's the other part of it that's real critical is law number 1, make it laughably simple. Mm-hmm. It's like, I could do it. Even though I don't feel like it, I'm in between. I want to sleep, but I can't sleep. I don't want to go out or work or exercise or whatever, but if I do the streak, I overcome the ego and I'm overcome my own tiredness. Well, it's an interesting
thing because we talk about in the article the great lengths that people go to when things are abnormal, which we've experienced, like that the circumstances are totally not your normal circumstances. So you go to these great lengths to keep your streak alive.
Right.
But then the flip side of that is what you're willing to do when you just don't want to do anything. When you're in that place where you're like, I don't want to do anything.
I don't want to do a thing. There's nothing I want to do right now. And
a lot of that time, so even the other day, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do these things. So there are a lot of things that I do while I'm watching TV now.
Yeah.
Because I want to get my streak done.
Yeah.
And so whereas before, I would just be like, I just don't want to do anything. I want to watch TV.
Because you've had a tough day, a lot of things that have gone on. You're tired. You're like, I just want to sit and think about nothing. But you're like, oh,
but I'm going to do my streaks.
I have a streak.
Yes. But it's amazing because it's really helped me to.
Right.
It's interesting to me that sometimes it's motivating because you don't want to lose the streak. And so you'll go to these great lengths and it's exciting and kind of fun. And then there's other times it's motivating because you don't have any motivation, but you don't want to lose the streak. You're not willing to give that up. And so you're like, I'll do it. I'll do it when it does feel like life is drudgery. And
So
you're
that
like,
brings up an interesting point. We were listening, and Elder David A. Bednar was speaking at Silicon Slopes, and someone had asked him about motivation, and he said that what he wrote about motivation as a professor when he did, or I think he did organizational development or business management or something, said it's all bunk. It's ridiculous. He said there is nothing that motivates you from outside. Everything that is about motivation is intrinsic motivation. Mm-hmm. It's from the inside any of that comes. And I've thought a lot about that comment with streaking, that it comes from the inside. Like this morning, seriously, I was seriously in this place where I'm like, I don't even know what to do. And so I just turned to the streaks, and that was internal.
Which is an interesting thing, because when you hear things like that, when people say none of this outward motivation works, it's all intrinsic. To me, that's like a double-edged sword. On the one side, you're like, that's great. It's all about me. And on the other side, you're like, oh, it's great. All about me. Yeah. Like it's all. So it is an interesting thing. It's empowering, because that means you have the power to make a difference.
Okay, I have to do a break in the regular dialogue here for a second. Our text messages have been blowing up.
I know.
And do you know why?
No.
So our oldest daughter, her due date, she's having her first baby, is today. And she says, I split my maternity plans. It's a new low. Oh. And so everyone is commenting on this. And then Kate sends this gift through of a guy doing the splits. It is, oh my goodness, so much funny. So
shout out to our daughter who's having a baby.
Who's having a baby
sometime soon.
Sometime soon. Good luck to you, Meg. You're going to be fantastic. Anyway, it's been blowing up. It's been a total distraction to our conversation, so I had to bring it up. Okay, now back to our regularly programmed show.
And with that note, just keep streaking.
I think, though, that as we talk about the mundane things of life, because that's the other thing with, you even talk about what Megan's going through and all the different aspects of life. Everything, there's so many different activities and events and things that can happen that to keep a streak alive in the midst of all of it.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
It is, and very powerful. I liked reading this article. It was fun. It was fun to see how excited people get about the games. Yeah. But it was also really great to see that the power of a streak is real. Yeah. Like it's super real. And this is something that they have discovered accidentally and that marketing, we've had someone on the podcast before, Danny Weathers, who is actually studying this as a marketing tool.
Yes.
How to use streaks as a marketing tool. But I love the idea of taking charge of it ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes, it can be a marketing tool, and they can use it to help us to keep us doing the things they want us to be doing. Or we can recognize the power of it and use it ourselves to do the things that we want to do.
Right.
To do all of these same things where you wake up in the morning and you start your morning by doing your streaks.
Yeah.
And you set a timer for 4:00 because you want to have these things done in your day so that you're not feeling stressed at night. So you can go to bed feeling like, wow, I did all the things that were important to me today.
Yep. Yep. That's really good. I think of, we'll end with this note. I think of Dory in Finding Nemo. Mm-hmm. Just keep swimming.
Just keep swimming.
Just keep streaking.
Yep. Just
when
keep
you
streaking.
Just keep streaking. And when you do that, you'll have success. Well, thanks everyone for joining our discussion today. We have enjoyed talking with you. Jamie, thank you for being with me
You're
today.
welcome.
It's always so much better when I get to have you with me. As we go forward, just know this, the Streaking app is going to get another major upgrade coming up very soon. In fact, in the next couple of weeks, which is going to be great. There's all kinds of neat things, and we'll post on the Streaking app what those things are. If you want to order the book, you can do so at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, or wherever books are sold. Yes, there's still out there, and it's still something that you ought to look into. The book is a great read. If you wouldn't mind leaving us a review and subscribing to the podcast, letting us know what you'd like us to talk about in regards to how to apply streaking, we would appreciate it. Until we talk again,
keep streaking.